Relax, for the universe is not a distant power watching you from afar. It is responding to you, echoing the assumptions you hold and the states you occupy. Everything you see, touch, and experience is only the outpicturing of your inner world. The drama of your life is not written by chance, nor is it dictated by fate. It is authored by your imagination, moment by moment, thought by thought. And when you relax and you step into stillness and trust, you open the gates to receive all that has been prepared for you from the foundation of your desire. You are not waiting for something to happen outside. The shift occurs within. Your job is not to strive and force things into place. It is to become the version of yourself who already has it. The universe has already said yes to your inner conviction. All you are ever doing is aligning with the version of reality that already exists within you. Your desire is not random. It is a seed. To live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled means to inhabit right now the emotional and mental state you would naturally occupy if your desire had already become a fact. It is stepping beyond hope and longing into the certainty and inner experience of it is done. It's not about daydreaming from a distance, but embodying the reality so completely that your subconscious mind accepts it as present truth. When you place yourself in that inner atmosphere, you're not chasing after what you want. You're aligning with it. You speak differently, you walk differently, you even think differently, because your mind is now operating from the end result, not from the place of waiting. It's like wearing new clothes that fit perfectly. You move as if they've always been yours. This state is felt, not forced. It's the quiet confidence that arises when you no longer look for evidence outside because you're already experiencing the evidence within. You don't need to check if it's coming because in your mind and emotions, you're already living it. The tone of your conversations changes, your energy shifts, the way you react to life transforms because your responses are no longer shaped by the absence of your desire, but by the joy of its possession. The power here lies in repetition and consistency. Every time you return to that feeling, when you wake, when you fall asleep, in moments of quiet, you impress it deeper into your subconscious. And as your inner world stabilizes in this new reality, the outer world begins to echo it, reorganizing itself to match what you have already claimed in feeling. Faith is the bridge between the unseen and the seen, the invisible and the tangible. It is the invisible thread that connects your present moment to the reality you desire. Faith is not merely hoping something might happen. It is knowing it already exists, even if your senses have no evidence to offer. It is walking forward with complete trust, as if the path is already laid before you, even when you can't yet see the ground beneath your feet. When you hold faith, you step beyond the limits of logic and circumstance. You refuse to let appearances dictate your belief. Even when the outer world shows emptiness, faith allows you to move and speak as though fullness is already yours. It changes the way you make decisions, the way you approach opportunities, the way you interpret challenges. You no longer see obstacles as signs of impossibility, but as brief clouds passing over a sky that is eternally clear. Faith is not passive. It requires a living participation with your desire. It's a daily choice to return to the inner knowing that what you have asked for is already here in the unseen. Each time you affirm it within, you strengthen that invisible bridge, making it more and more real until it can bear the full weight of your manifested reality. It is this bridge that allows you to hold your head high when nothing seems to be happening, to feel gratitude before the blessing arrives, and to keep your inner world anchored in certainty while the outer world catches up. Faith doesn't wait for evidence, it creates the evidence. And when you walk across that bridge in unwavering trust, you discover that the reality you once longed for has been waiting for you all along. Gratitude before receiving is the art of saying thank you for something you have not yet touched with your hands, but have already claimed with your heart. It is a declaration to the universe that you trust its timing, its ways, and its ability to deliver. When you express gratitude in advance, you are not begging or hoping. You are affirming that what you desire is already yours in the unseen, and you are simply allowing it to take form. This gratitude is not shallow or mechanical. It is alive, rich with feeling. It is the same warmth you would feel if the very thing you wanted was placed in your hands this moment. You let that emotion rise within you, filling your chest, softening your breath, bringing a quiet joy to your face. You don't wait for the external gift to appear before feeling thankful. You feel thankful, and in doing so, you draw the gift toward you. This is how you enter into the world. Something tells me. You're spiritual. You feel thankful, and in doing so, you draw the gift toward you. In this state, you speak differently. Your thoughts are no longer restless or questioning. There is no urgency, no pressure, because gratitude tells you it is already done. You find yourself moving through your day with a lightness, smiling at small things, radiating the assurance that your desire is already woven into your life. Gratitude before receiving also removes resistance. When you are genuinely thankful, you are not looking for signs of absence. You are celebrating presence. This shifts your energy from lack to abundance, from waiting to welcoming. You begin to act like a host, preparing for a guest, arranging, expecting, knowing they will arrive. The more you live in that thankful state, the more naturally your reality shapes itself to match it. Releasing the how is the moment you stop trying to control the path your desire will take to reach you. It is the surrender of endless questioning, the letting go of mental strain, and the quiet acceptance that the universe has ways and means far beyond your current understanding. When you release the how, you step out of the role of the architect of details and into the role of the visionary who holds the end result firmly in mind. The need to figure out every step comes from doubt. It is the mind's attempt to make the invisible feel safe and predictable. But in truth, the more you obsess over the route, the more you block the very channels through which your desire could flow. When you let go, you create space for the unexpected, for the miraculous, for answers and opportunities to appear in ways you could never have planned. And this release is not laziness, it is active trust. You still take inspired action when it arises, but you no longer force the process. You no longer demand the timing, the sequence, or the circumstances. Your focus remains on the feeling of having your desire now, not on the mechanics of how it will come to pass. In this state, life begins to move with a rhythm of its own. Conversations lead to connections, events align, and doors open without you needing to push them. What once seemed like coincidence begins to feel like orchestration. The invisible hands of creation work more freely when you are no longer clutching at the steering wheel, trying to direct every turn. By releasing the how, you invite a greater intelligence to guide the unfolding, allowing what you want to arrive in ways far more perfect than you could have designed. Persisting in the state means holding firmly to the inner reality of your desire, no matter what the outer world appears to show. It is the steadfast choice to remain in the feeling of fulfillment, even when your senses tempt you to doubt. This is where the true strength of manifestation lies, not in creating a momentary vision, but in sustaining it until it hardens into fact. When you persist, you are not reacting to temporary appearances. You are responding from the deeper knowing that the unseen is more real than the seen. You understand that what is visible now is simply the echo of past thoughts and feelings, and that by maintaining your inner state, you are shaping the new reality that is on its way. The world may whisper, "It's not happening," but you continue to live as if it already has. This persistence is not tense or desperate. It is calm, deliberate, and unshakable. You do not need to constantly repeat affirmations in fear of losing the vision. Instead, you rest in the quiet confidence that what you have claimed within is inevitable. You may be confronted with delays, contradictions, or complete silence from the outside world, but you choose not to measure progress by appearances. Each time you return to the state of having, you reinforce it, making it the dominant vibration of your life. Eventually, it becomes second nature. You no longer have to remind yourself to feel it, because it is the place you naturally live from. And as you remain there, the outer reality begins to align, piece by piece, until what was once only within you stands undeniable before your eyes. And the moment you felt it, it was already fulfilled. When you relax, you stop resisting the flow. You stop interrupting the pattern with doubt and fear. You are the operant power, and your world is clay responding to the hands of your imagination. There is no power outside of consciousness, and no one can rob you of what you claim in the silence of your mind. If you can imagine it clearly, feel it as though it were true, and rest in the assurance of its reality, then it must appear in your world. But that appearance is not your work. It is the work of the unseen hand that shapes your outer world to reflect your inner conviction. Your only task is to assume the state and dwell in it until it becomes more real than the facts that confront you. Relax, because what you think is a delay is only the movement of shadows shifting to make room for your light. What you perceive as absence is the perfect preparation for the fullness to arrive. You are not lacking. You are not separate from what you want. You are one with it. The more you relax into that truth, the more the illusion of waiting dissolves. It comes when you no longer need it to come, because you already are the person who possesses it. The universe responds to being, not begging. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Sink into the feeling of already having it. Let that feeling dominate your inner conversation. Let your thoughts loop around joy, gratitude, and certainty. Let your emotions become a soft melody of fulfillment. When the noise of the world grows loud, turn within and listen to the quiet truth that says it is done. Every assumption you accept hardens into fact, not because the world is magic, but because you are. You are the dreamer in the act of dreaming, and the dream is your life. There is nothing too big, nothing too impossible. If you can believe it is already yours, it becomes yours. Relax. There is no competition in imagination, no obstacle in consciousness. All is available, all is waiting, but it waits for your alignment, not your effort. It waits for your relaxation into the state of already having it. It waits for your inner surrender to the truth that what you feel inside is more powerful than what you see outside. The moment you drop resistance, the moment you stop asking how and start living from the now, the universe bends in your favor. It rearranges timelines, people, events, circumstances, and chance encounters just to mirror back to you the state you dared to assume. You don't need to understand how it happens. You only need to know that it does. So let go. Let go of the struggle. Let go of the fear. Let go of the illusion that you must strive to earn what is already yours. Relax, because the universe is about to give you everything. Not because you forced it, but because you became it. The universe does not operate independently of your inner world. It is not a detached force casting random events upon your life. Instead, it is an infinite mirror, reflecting back to you the very substance of your inner states. Everything you experience, every joy, every conflict, every breakthrough, and every delay is born first in consciousness. Your mind is not a passive observer of reality. It is the projector of it. The world around you dances to the rhythm of your assumptions, your emotions, your deeply held beliefs. If you live in a state of fear, lack, or doubt, the world must present itself accordingly. If you dwell in a state of peace, abundance, and fulfillment, the universe has no choice but to conform to that inner tone. This is not mere philosophy or poetic metaphor. It is the nature of reality. Consciousness is the only reality, and everything outside is an echo. You are not reacting to life. You are witnessing the reflection of what you have assumed to be true. When you understand this, the power to change your world no longer feels like a distant hope. It becomes a direct and deliberate act. The universe is impersonal in this regard. It does not judge what it reflects. It merely brings forth what you claim to be true in the silence of your imagination. What you dwell on mentally becomes your dominant state, and that dominant state becomes your experience. Thoughts may come and go, but the ones you accept emotionally, the ones you return to habitually, those are the seeds planted in the soil of consciousness. And the universe, being infinitely obedient, simply brings them to harvest. That's why two people can live in the same circumstances and yet experience vastly different lives, because they are living in different inner realities. If one sees opportunity, the other sees lack. One assumes they are loved and supported, the other assumes they are rejected and forgotten. And so it is done unto them as they believe. This understanding transforms the way you see everything. No longer is the outer world something to fear or control. No longer are you at the mercy of conditions or waiting for someone else to give you permission to thrive. You realize that you are the one writing the script. You are the cause, not the effect. Your imagination is not daydreaming. It is creation. And the state you occupy is not just a feeling. It is a command to the universe. The power of this truth lies in its simplicity. You do not need to struggle to make things happen. You do not need to manipulate circumstances or people. All you need to do is change the state within. Choose a new assumption. Persist in the belief that your desire is already yours. See the world through that lens. Feel it in your body. Let it become your new normal. And the world outside must reorganize itself to mirror that change. You cannot experience what you do not first accept inwardly. If you want love, you must assume you are lovable. If you want abundance, you must assume you are abundant. If you want peace, you must assume that all is well. These are not abstract ideas. They are living vibrations. And the universe is attuned to them perfectly. It picks up on your dominant frequency and responds accordingly. There is no need to plead or bargain. You simply radiate the reality you wish to live, and it returns to you multiplied. This is why your inner conversation is sacred. The thoughts you repeat when no one is listening, the emotions you allow to circulate through your being, the images you hold before you as real, all of these are shaping your tomorrow. You are always imagining something, whether consciously or unconsciously. The question is not whether you are creating, but what you are creating. When you realize that your inner world is the blueprint, you take responsibility for everything you experience, not in guilt, but in empowerment. Here's your invitation. Come to work and work. What if right now you stop blaming the outer world for how you feel and began to see it as the feedback loop it truly is? What if you viewed every unwanted condition not as punishment, but as a signal that your internal assumption needs revision? What if you no longer tried to fix the mirror, but instead turned within to adjust the face that it reflects? This shift in awareness is not always easy, but it is everything. It means you are no longer a victim. It means the key has been in your hand all along. You cannot deceive consciousness. You can say affirmations all day, but if you continue to dwell in a state of fear or unworthiness, that is what will be reflected. You must feel the new truth as though it is already done. You must believe before you see. This is not blind faith. It is creative knowing. It is the understanding that the seen arises from the unseen, that form follows feeling, that experience follows imagination. This is why you must be vigilant about your inner world, not from a place of anxiety or obsession, but from a place of reverence. You are not a bystander to your life. You are the cause of it. Every situation, every relationship, every turn of events is reflecting something you have assumed to be true. And the beautiful thing is that you can change it. At any moment, you can occupy a new state, you can choose a new story, and when you persist in that new state, the universe must respond. There is no external God deciding who is blessed and who is cursed. There is only consciousness responding to itself. You are that consciousness. The universe is not outside of you, it is within you, responding to you, reflecting you. You are not asking it to bless you. You are recognizing that it already is, and aligning your thoughts and feelings with that truth. The moment you do, the mirror must change. Not because you forced it, but because it has no choice. It is bound by law to reflect what you assume. Desire is not something you stumble upon by accident. It does not come from outside of you, and it is never separate from your ability to fulfill it. The moment a true desire is born within you, it is proof that its fulfillment already exists in consciousness. You are not here to chase your desires. You are here to awaken to the fact that they are already accomplished. Imagination is not a tool of fantasy. It is the gateway to reality. What you can imagine and feel to be true is more real than what your senses can presently verify. The senses only report what is, but imagination reveals what can be and what already is in the unseen. The minute you imagine something with feeling, you shift into a new state of consciousness. And each state is a dimension of reality that already exists, waiting for you to enter it fully. The world you want is not built in the future. It is selected in the present. And imagination is the act of selection. There are infinite versions of you, infinite outcomes, infinite lives available. And your desires are simply invitations to step into the version that contains the fulfillment you long for. You are not meant to wait. You are meant to accept the desire as done in your imagination and begin living as though it were already yours. This is the true art of creation, to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you sit in silence and imagine the scene that would take place if your desire were already real, you are doing far more than daydreaming. You are planting the seed in the soil of consciousness. And if you persist in that assumption, refusing to be swayed by outer appearances, the invisible will become visible. That scene will move from imagination into fact, because it was already real the moment you accepted it as true within yourself. Reality follows the feeling, not the other way around. There is no power in the outer world that can prevent your desire from manifesting once you have fully assumed it within. The delay people experience is not due to time or fate or lack of worthiness. It is due to wavering in assumption. One moment you believe it is yours, the next you doubt. You imagine it in meditation but contradict it with worry throughout the day. You plant the seed, but then dig it up to see if it's growing. The key is to remain faithful to the unseen, to persist in the state of already having received it. That inner conviction is the force that hardens into fact. Desire, when felt as already fulfilled, becomes a living reality in consciousness. And once it is alive in you, it must be reflected in your world. The mistake people often make is thinking they need to do something to make it happen. But imagination does not need to be assisted. It is complete in itself. The only work is inner work. You need not struggle in the outer world to bring it about. You simply need to bring yourself into alignment with the version of reality in which it is already so. This is why feeling is so important. Words alone are not enough. Repeating phrases like a parrot will not shift your reality unless those words stir something within you. The subconscious mind responds to feeling, not empty repetition. It is through the intensity and vividness of your inner experience that you convince the deeper self that it is true. And once that conviction is felt, the subconscious moves all things to fulfill it. The outer world becomes the stage on which your inner belief performs. The desire itself is sacred. It is not something to suppress or feel ashamed of. It is not a sign of lack, but a sign of what is possible. You are not given a desire that you do not also have the power to fulfill. The very fact that you can feel it is evidence that somewhere in consciousness it is already yours. And the more clearly you can see it in your mind, the more natural it becomes to your emotional body. The faster it will express in the world of form. Time is not the issue, alignment is. You don't need to figure out how it will come. That is not your role. The bridge of incidents will appear in ways you never could have planned. People will show up, circumstances will shift. What seemed impossible will suddenly feel inevitable. But it will never begin until you accept within yourself that the desire is already fulfilled. That is the only real step, and it is the only one that matters. Everything else flows from that point. Imagination is your entrance into the creative act, and when used consciously, it becomes your power to reorder the structure of your life. You are not limited by what has happened in the past. You are not trapped by what your senses currently report. You can close your eyes and enter into a new reality through the doorway of imagination. You can see what you wish to see, hear what you wish to hear, feel what you wish to feel, and by doing so, you begin to inhabit that new version of yourself. And the world must conform to that identity. You are never waiting on the universe. You are only waiting on yourself to become convinced that what you desire is already yours. Once that conviction is established, manifestation becomes inevitable. It becomes a natural unfolding rather than a forced event. There is no need to beg or plead or bargain. There is only the need to accept, to surrender to the truth that what you want you already have in the realm that matters most, consciousness. And from that realm, all things are made. The universe responds to the version of you that you occupy. If you remain in the state of wanting, you perpetuate the experience of lack. But if you dwell in the state of having, then the outer world has no choice but to catch up. The moment you stop needing your desire to prove itself to you and instead become the person who already possesses it, the shift is complete. The delay dissolves and the fulfillment begins to flow. This is not a game of pretending. It is the discipline of becoming. Becoming the version of yourself who lives in the end. Becoming so inwardly secure in your assumption that nothing in the outer world can shake it. That is the true power. And when you understand that your desires are already fulfilled in imagination, you stop chasing them. You start embodying them. And that embodiment is the signal the universe cannot ignore. It must respond because it is already done. When you relax, something extraordinary happens within the invisible realms of creation. You release the resistance that clogs the channel through which your desires flow. Most people live in a constant state of inattention, worrying, doubting, analyzing, overthinking. They believe that the more effort they exert, the closer they'll get to what they want. But true creation does not respond to effort. It responds to alignment. And alignment is effortless when you're in the state of knowing that what you want is already yours. It is in that moment of inner stillness, of quiet certainty, that your desire begins to crystallize into form. Tension is the offspring of fear. It arises when you believe that what you desire might not come to you. It comes from the assumption that life is uncertain and that you must struggle to ensure your needs are met. But all of this is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how reality works. You are not waiting for the world to deliver your desire. You are the source of your experience, and the outer world simply reflects the internal state you consistently occupy. To relax is not to give up, it is to give in to the truth of your power. When you rest in the awareness that your imagination creates reality, you realize that there is no need to strive, push, or rush. Effort implies separation. It carries the belief that the thing you want is out there and must be earned, convinced, or wrestled into your possession. But when you relax, you step into the state of unity. You remember that what you desire is not outside of you, it is within you, in the unseen already complete. The only reason it has not yet appeared in your outer world is because you have not fully accepted it within. You cannot bring something into your world while simultaneously doubting its presence. You cannot receive while you are tensed in disbelief. When you are relaxed, you are receptive. You become a magnet to the very thing you thought you had to chase. In that relaxed state, your imagination is free to roam, unburdened by resistance, fear, or logic. It is here, in this stillness, that your most potent creative power emerges. You don't need to know how your desire will unfold. You don't need to figure out every step. You only need to allow the image to form in your imagination and feel its reality with ease. The universe is not slow, it is precise. It responds not to your effort, but to the clarity and constancy of your assumption. Relaxation provides the soil in which your inner vision can take root and grow. This is why so many breakthroughs happen when people finally let go. They dream and hope and visualize and affirm, but nothing happens until they reach a point where they say, "I've done enough. I'll let it be." And it's in that moment, that sacred pause, that the desire begins to move toward them. Why? Because they stop resisting it. They stop fighting their current circumstances and allowed the deeper truth of their desire to live within them without contradiction. Relaxation is the natural result of inner faith. When you truly believe it is done, you don't feel tense. You don't feel desperate. You feel light, playful, even joyful. That feeling state is the signal that you are in harmony with your desire. Many are conditioned to equate seriousness with success, as though only those who work the hardest and suffer the most are worthy of receiving. But in the realm of consciousness, the opposite is often true. The more lightly you hold your desire, the more effortlessly it comes. This does not mean you become indifferent. It means you embody such complete trust that you no longer cling. You no longer demand signs or obsessively check for results. You no longer interpret delays as denials. You simply relax, knowing that what you have accepted in imagination must be reflected in your world. Relaxation is the doorway to surrender, not to fate, but to the unseen intelligence within you that orchestrates all things perfectly. It is the surrender of ego, of control, of trying to manipulate outcomes. It is the willingness to trust the process and rest in the awareness that consciousness is the only cause. You are not begging life to give you something. You are aligning with the version of yourself who already has it. And that version of you does not feel panic. That version of you lives in peace because it knows the truth. It is already done. When you live in this relaxed state, even your actions become effortless. You move not from a place of need, but from a place of knowing. You take inspired steps because they feel natural, not because you believe they will make it happen. You no longer seek to force the world into shape. Instead, you allow the world to shape itself around the conviction you've assumed. And the more you relax, the faster this shaping occurs because there is no opposing frequency within you to block it. To relax is to trust the rhythm of your own becoming. It is to tune in to the silent language of the universe that whispers, you already have what you seek. It is to recognize that the sense of urgency you feel is not truth. It is simply the byproduct of the illusion of separation. The moment you accept that there is no separation between you and your desire, urgency vanishes. You no longer feel pressure to create. It becomes as natural as breathing. You no longer live from the question, will it happen, but from the declaration, it is happening now. The world will always tempt you to panic. The circumstances around you will scream that your desire is far away, that nothing is changing, that time is running out. But the relaxed mind is not swayed by appearances. It is anchored in the invisible, where all things are already completed. You become immune to delay because you no longer live by the clock. You live by inner knowing. And from that knowing, you radiate a calm confidence that draws the future into your present. And when you lead to that knowing, you radiate a calm confidence that draws the future into your present. Letting go of effort does not mean doing nothing. It means doing from a place of peace rather than panic. It means allowing your desire to unfold through you rather than trying to push it into existence. It means living in alignment with the end you've already imagined without anxiety or doubt. When you move from this place, your actions are precise, your energy is clear, and the bridge of incidents begins to form with stunning accuracy. You don't manifest what you obsess over, you manifest what you rest in. The more you relax, the more magnetic you become to the reality you have already claimed within. Because in relaxation, you are not trying to make something happen. You are allowing the truth of your inner vision to express itself naturally. This is the ultimate act of faith. To rest while the unseen goes to work. To trust while nothing on the outside has changed. To remain calm because you know the truth is already alive within you. To assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled is to become the version of yourself who already has what you desire. It is not to beg, plead, or wish. It is not to hope that someday your dream might come true. It is to move into the state where it has already happened and to live from that state inwardly, regardless of what the outer world says. This is the secret so few understand. That creation is finished, and what you desire exists now in a dimension that can only be accessed through your imagination and sustained by your faith in its reality. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are not pretending. You are not engaging in fantasy or escape. You are aligning with the truth that consciousness is the only reality and that everything begins with a state. Your outer world is the shadow cast by your inner being. The events you experience, the people you meet, the opportunities that come your way, all are shaped and molded by the state of consciousness you habitually occupy. If you remain in a state of wanting, of lacking, of not having, then you will continue to see reflections of that state in the world around you. But when you assume that your desire is already yours, when you feel it as natural and true, the universe begins to rearrange itself to match that assumption. This is not magic, it is law. Consciousness does not lie. It reflects with perfect fidelity the inner state you embody. And it is your feeling that impresses the subconscious mind, not your words or your efforts. You must feel the truth of your desire being fulfilled so deeply that it becomes more real to you than the facts your senses report. That inner conviction is the force that bends your reality. This is why you must become still and enter into the state mentally and emotionally. You must construct the scene that would be true if your wish were fulfilled, and you must feel it, Not just think about it, but feel it as if it were unfolding right now. The warmth in your chest, the calm in your body, the joy that rises spontaneously. These are signs that you are in the right state. And once you are there, you must remain there, return to it often, make it your dwelling place. You must think from it, act from it, respond to life as if it were already done. Many people live from the state of not having. They speak their affirmations, visualize for a few minutes, and then spend the rest of the day worrying, doubting, and noticing how things still haven't changed. They unconsciously return to the old state, the state of it's not here yet. But the world does not respond to the momentary spark of imagination. It responds to the sustained vibration of assumption. It responds to the inner identity you claim as your own. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are claiming that identity. You are saying, this is who I am now. And once you claim that, the world will begin to reflect it. You will see changes, some subtle, some obvious, but the outer world is slow to move because it is a shadow. The real movement happens in consciousness, and the outer follows. Just as the hands of a clock move only after the inner mechanism turns, so too does your reality shift only after the inner state changes. The assumption is the movement, the assumption is the creative act. You don't need to explain how it will happen. You don't need to share your vision with others or convince anyone of its truth. The universe is not a democratic system where others vote on your manifestation. It is an echo chamber that reflects your own belief back to you. And when you assume something is real, you close the gap between imagination and reality. You stop waiting and begin living. You no longer react to the old world, you respond from the new one. You have already claimed, in imagination, this assumption must be natural, not forced. You do not need to strain to believe, you only need to immerse yourself so deeply in the feeling that your body begins to respond as if it were true. That is the language the subconscious understands, not logic, not effort, but feeling. If your desire were fulfilled, how would you walk? How would you speak? How would you look at life? Begin now to carry yourself with that same energy. Let your posture, your words, your energy match that version of you. This is why the practice of imagining before sleep is so powerful. In those drowsy moments, the critical mind relaxes and the subconscious becomes receptive. That is when you impress the new state most effectively. You don't try to manifest while asleep, you assume it, and the sleep seals it in. And if you do this repeatedly, if you persist until the assumption feels more real than the former story of lack, then manifestation becomes inevitable. The world must change because you have changed. What happens in the world is not your concern. Your concern is your state. Stay faithful to it, nurture it, feed it with your attention and emotion. Do not water the weeds of doubt. Water the seed of assumption with your belief and gratitude. Walk through life not as someone hoping to become, but as someone who already is. And from this state, everything flows, not as struggle, but as a natural unfolding. You cannot cling to the old self and expect the new reality. You must become the new self now. And that self does not wonder if the desire is coming. It knows. It sees evidence in every moment. It looks at the world and says, of course it's happening. How could it not? That is the feeling of the wish fulfilled. That is the state of certainty that bends all things to your desire. You do not need to wait for the evidence before you believe. You need only believe, and the evidence will come. You need only become, and the world will echo your becoming. Pull one. This is, for me, quite important. You are not responsible for the how. The moment you assume full responsibility for the end, the means take care of themselves. The greatest relief in the process of creation is knowing that you do not need to orchestrate the unfolding. The universe is far more intelligent, far more efficient, far more precise than your limited reasoning mind. The bridge of incidents, the sequence of events that must occur to bring your desire into visible form, will unfold without your control. Your only task is to live from the end, to feel the reality of your desire so fully that it becomes more natural to you than your current circumstances. That shift in inner focus, That move from effort to surrender is what allows the unseen power to flow unobstructed through your life. When you attempt to control the how, you become entangled in the very limitations you are trying to transcend. The mind begins to calculate, worry, analyze, compare, and fear. It begins to tell you stories about what is possible and what is not, based on your past experiences or what it deems logical. But manifestation does not follow logic. It follows law. Specifically, the law that what you feel as true within will be mirrored without. The how is never your domain. Your domain is the assumption, the state, the inner reality. That is where you live. That is where your power lies. The how belongs to the bridge. This bridge of incidents often appears so naturally, so organically, that you may not even recognize it as the pathway to your fulfillment. One event leads to another. One conversation opens a door. One delay becomes the blessing in disguise. One detour reveals the perfect route. And yet, if you were to try and plan these steps yourself, you could not possibly engineer the perfection with which the unseen coordinates the outcome. The conscious mind may suggest hundreds of possibilities, but the subconscious, responding to your assumption, knows the shortest and most harmonious path. It uses every means available: people, events, memories, timing, even your own so-called mistakes, to carry out the manifestation you've impressed upon it. Surrender is not giving up your desire, it's giving up your resistance. It is releasing the need to know every detail, to anticipate every step, to force every outcome. It is trusting the process, knowing that the desire is already fulfilled in the invisible, and that the visible world is simply catching up. This trust is not passive, it is profoundly active. It takes strength to rest in the unseen. It takes courage to believe without proof. But it is this unwavering belief, this internal alignment with the end, that initiates the movement of everything else. The more you try to manipulate the process, the more you interfere with the very intelligence that is working on your behalf. It's like planting a seed in the soil. Once the seed is planted, you don't stand over it all day pulling at the ground, trying to make it grow faster. You trust the soil, you water it, you keep the space nourished, and you wait, not in anxiety, but in assurance. You know the seed will break through because it's in the nature of the seed to grow when given the proper environment. Likewise, once your desire is planted in the fertile soil of consciousness through assumption, it must take root and grow into your experience. It cannot do otherwise. But if you dig it up daily to see whether it's growing, you delay the process, you choke the roots with doubt. The feeling of already having it must become your dominant inner reality. The assumption must become your home, your new identity. You carry it with you not as a fragile wish, but as a solid truth. And as you do, you begin to see the world bend and rearrange itself to reflect this new identity. But this reflection can only appear when you have fully let go of the need to force it. The moment you release the how, you allow the higher intelligence to take command. The moment you relax, the bridge begins to form. And it does so quietly, without fanfare, without struggle. Often, the how arrives in forms that your logical mind would never predict. A conversation overheard, a book picked up by chance, a sudden inspiration to go somewhere or call someone. These are not random, they are the bridge responding to your assumption. But if you are too focused on how you think it should happen, you may miss the actual path that is opening before you. The universe does not need your micromanagement. It needs your cooperation with its laws. It needs you to dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled and let everything else fall into place around that foundation. This surrender does not mean inaction. It means inspired action. You may be moved to act, to create, to speak, to travel, to write, to explore. And that movement comes not from fear or urgency, but from a deep inner impulse that feels natural, joyful, inevitable. These actions are not done to get the manifestation. They are done as expressions of the state you already occupy. You act from the end, not toward it. You no longer ask, what should I do to make this happen? Instead, you ask, how does the version of me who already has this feel, think, act, and move through the world. And then you live that way. The bridge becomes visible only in retrospective, but you walk it by following your inner alignment. Time becomes irrelevant when you surrender the how. You are no longer watching the clock or measuring progress. You are no longer negotiating with the universe. You have stepped into a reality where it is already done, and therefore you are free. Free from striving, free from doubt, free from questioning. You know that the unseen has heard you because you have already felt it real. That feeling is your confirmation, and once it has been felt, the world must eventually reveal what you have already accepted. The more you release the how, the more you allow the miraculous. You make space for the extraordinary, for the route that defies logic, for the kind of unfolding that humbles the mind and uplifts the soul. You begin to experience reality not as a battlefield, but as a beautifully responsive echo. And every moment becomes a step in the dance between your assumption and its reflection. This is the power of surrender. Not the surrender of desire, but the surrender of resistance. Not the surrender of vision, but the surrender of interference. And in that sacred surrender, everything you've ever imagined finds its way to you. Quietly, naturally, and often far more swiftly than you could have ever planned.